Rucky, or Dave Ruck's our guest this week. Thanks for joining us, mate, all the way from Perth. Appreciate you sticking around the office today to do this for us. You're a coach that I've worked with before, and one I've been really eager to interview because I really enjoy working with you, and I really like your thoughts on the game. But first of all, for those who don't know you, you had a long playing career with hockey in general, and especially with the Perth Thunder, going until you were 46. Is that right?
Yeah, 46, I think. Yep.
46. So is coaching something you always wanted to pursue, or is that just the natural progression for someone who's spent really their whole life in the game?
Well, let's face it, playing is the best thing that you can do. And I just love playing at the highest level I can. So, well, I could still get a spot now and then. I just hung in there for as long as I could till really the body just broke down. I got too slow to play.
Yeah.
And so I just love competing in hockey at the highest level. So that was the next step, was just, coaching the highest level that I could, and Perth Thunder's it.
Yeah. And did that happen toward the end of your playing career where you're like, hey, I got to keep doing this, it's going to be coaching? Or did you find early on, like I remember coaches that I had right back in my late teens even, that I would watch or listen or be coached by them. And I can think back now, and I remember thinking back then almost subconsciously that, man, that he's doing a really good job, or I did or I didn't like that. I think I'd like to do that one day, even though I didn't really pursue it hard until I was kind of in my late 20s. Is that something that you had going on as well?
Oh, definitely. So, like, obviously I'm a phys ed teacher as well. Right. So when, so playing junior in that, I always thought, coaching would be, being around sport and coaching would be an excellent job. The thing is, you learn very quickly. There's not a lot of money in coaching. And just like playing, you got to put in a lot of dues, and it takes a long time to get anywhere where you can make any money. And I just thought to myself, really, if I want to coach, what can you do coaching and make money at? And teaching was it. It's like you're a professional coach all day teaching phys ed. And so, so that's what really happened there. And then moving to Australia, just had awesome opportunity. We had Super League, and then I was part of the, getting that Thunder team together, and, and then got playing first year, second year, you know what I mean? It was just, it was just great fun, where being in Canada, it was, just beer league, right?
Yeah. Man, I'd kind of forgotten that. I knew you worked at a school, but I'd kind of forgotten that you were a teacher, even though I knew that, particularly phys ed. But I remember years ago I was with Hockey Alberta at a High Performance One seminar, and one of the coaches asked a group of about 60 people, what is a coach? And he went around, and I would say probably 80% of people in that room, their response was, or maybe I had to write it down, thinking back now, it was a long time ago, but their response was, a coach is a teacher. And it makes so much sense, but I remember really thinking at the time, yeah, you're right, a coach is a teacher. Have you found that being a teacher has helped you more as a hockey coach, or being a hockey coach has helped you more in teaching?
Funny you say that. It actually works both ways. So the kids that are in my classes, I basically tell them, whatever sport we're doing, soccer, I say, you got to pretend we're the Perth Glory. I'm going to run this PE lesson just like I would a training session. So we actually do skills development, and I set up drills like soccer players do soccer drills. And then, we play small area games, and the kids like playing the full game too, to keep it fun. So we eventually do that as well. And so that's, so pretty much, teaching and coaching, there's not a lot of difference, to be honest with you, if, you just try and get the kids' mindset like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Look, I guess I want to start with your time with the Thunder. I think you did a great job as tenure with the Thunder, 3 years coaching there, particularly developing their young local players. You would have played, well, you may have coached a lot of them before they reached the AIHL. You may have played with some of them while you were finishing your playing days in the AIHL. But I guess that would have been a lot of hard work. getting that semi-final win last year, particularly with Perth, where you guys have been there so many times and fallen short in a just a one game kind of roll of the dice. But last year, getting that first win in franchise history, how good did that feel? Because to me, it was clearly from the hard work that you guys have put in developing those young guys. Was that pretty rewarding for you?
Yeah, definitely. That look, it was a whole team effort. That was a great team game, and yeah, you need your local players. No matter, you need the depth. No matter what team it is, you have to have depth.
Yeah,
and definitely those guys certainly helped. I definitely coached a lot of those guys growing up as well. And then they got an opportunity to actually, a lot of them go overseas and stuff. So there was a good break, had a good break there, which is when I was playing with the Thunder.
yeah.
And look, to be honest, I kind of coached the Thunder a little sooner than I would have liked to.
Okay.
Being AIHL I mean, it's a men's semi-professional hockey league with professional hockey players in it.
Yeah.
And the young guys, they need to be 23, 24, 25 to really make an impact in these leagues. And so they were just, but you got to take the opportunity when it's there. So I had the opportunity to step in 3 years ago, so I took it.
Right.
But to be honest with you, I could definitely see this coming. I think the Thunder's in an excellent spot now, and I think they've got good depth, good local guys for the future, and yeah, I think this is the time really you want to be taking the team on.
Yeah. So you think their window to win, I guess,
Yeah,
for lack of a better term, is just opening right now?
I think so. Yeah, I think they should be. Although they've been really competitive for a long time. And, we had good local players, not knocking them, but we just didn't quite have that depth,
Yeah.
and I think that now we've got that depth. And I also think that the AIHL moving to from 15-minute periods to 320s, that's going to be a game changer for teams with the depth.
Absolutely. And I think any coach who really believes in themselves and also has some depth to coach is going to be loving those 3 20-minute periods, because there's really no room to hide now as a coach. You have to have a third, maybe even fourth line that can be relied upon, which will then unlock your top line to be able to perform at their best without overplaying them. So I'm eager to see how that goes when it shakes out post-COVID. But you made a good point there, and it's interesting looking at that team. It makes a lot of sense now that they are in their kind of window to win is just starting now with those young guys that are men.
And the older guys aren't too old either. They're just hitting 29,
Yeah.
30, so they're still able to play.
Yeah, really contribute and lead those guys. But I guess if you think of a young Australian player, apart from the very few truly elite players like Bronte, Costa, there's a Friedrich, there's a few just absolute studs that are going to step right in and probably step into a top 6 role or a top 4 role or a starting goalie role right away. For everyone else, so for most of the young guys, how long do you think it takes to truly develop to be an everyday AIHL player?
Yeah, so look, I think it's, like I said, it's that you need that 3, you start at 20, you need that 3 or 4 years, because it is a man's game. And regardless of your skill level, it is, hockey. It's a fast, you need to have that athleticism. You got to have the power. You have to have the speed. You got to have the strength. And, you got to win board battles. You got to get pucks out. You got to take hits and make plays. And until you may be more skilled, but until you've developed that man strength, for lack of a better word, you're not going to be as effective. And plus you got to remember, you're competing against imports as well. So, you're competing against professional hockey players. So, and they all come over as men. They're not coming over at 20 when they just finished junior. you know, they're coming, they're at 20, 21, they're still trying to make it. Most of them are coming over once they've established themselves, you know, as an East Coast League player or SPHL player. And then now they're thinking about having more fun with their hockey. So,
Yeah.
so I think it's the, you know, it takes that time. And that's the time that the kids can lose interest. That's where the difficulty comes in with the coach or the team, making sure that those guys maintain their interest, maintain, you know, whatever ice time they get, they want to get better. They want to hit the gym and they want to improve their fitness. They want, you know, their size, their strength, their speed. They want to improve their skills, because it can be a little bit demoralizing sitting on the bench, which I personally, as a coach, I hate. A bench warmer is not a role on a team.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it is a fine line between getting ice time, you know, making owners happy, GMs happy, imports happy. That's the hard work.
Yeah.
The coaching is the fun stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, great point there. Like, a lot of kids do get demoralized after, because, you know, we think now as older players or guys who've been coaching a little while, is 3-4 years, that's, you know, I can invest that into a player, or it's not that long because there's so much to learn and so much that goes into it. But as a player, particularly if you don't really have a role early on, or it hasn't been defined to you, and you are sitting on the bench and kind of wondering, like, why aren't I getting an opportunity, or what have I got to do to get an opportunity? And I've seen it a lot of times on a lot of different teams where those players, they do a year, maybe two, and then they go play in the Super League or East Coast or whatever else. So you need to be, as a coach, I think it's a challenge to really connect with those guys and communicate with them that they feel like they're on that journey with you, and then they see the fruits of year 3 and 4 and playing more and kind of doing their part. But one thing I find with young guys is it's the games and what happens in the games, like being able to put them out there in certain situations, being able to battle against men, like you said. But I find a lot can be developed at practice, because the practice, I know every year we have a preseason practice and it's pretty good up here in Newcastle. And as soon as the imports arrive, it just ramps right up. Like, even the Aussie guys get better and passing harder, and it really has an intensity to it. And for young guys, that's awesome, because it just like the game time, it probably takes a year or two of practicing like that to really make those good habits and take them to the next level. Do you agree that a lot of that groundwork's done?
100%. As soon as the imports arrive, the speed and the pace 100% ramps up. And you probably even know yourself, as you get through a bit of the grind, you know, you hit the mid-season doldrums, the imports, they want to, you know, take a weekend here or that, a few days off. And you just see, you know, the imports injured, they're not at practice. 5 guys are injured. They're not at practice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you definitely see that. And, yeah, it's excellent experience to experience that, because, yeah, they just don't know the pace that they have to practice at. They don't know how hard they should be passing that puck.
Yeah. And then another thing I find which keeps guys, young guys and also older guys interested is just the morale of being around the team. Like, I know myself for times where I wouldn't play much. It's great to get away with the guys, and, you know, you've got good friends on the team. You're enjoying the road trips. You're enjoying the weekends away or weekends out in Newcastle area. You're enjoying the practice time because you're having fun around buddies. That for young guys to really get into a dressing room and be embraced by the players, particularly the older players, I think really helps to keep that interest and morale up, so that they can then tough out those 1, 2, 3, 4 years until they're a regular. I'm going to shift it a little bit from Thunder to your current role as head coach of the National U20 team. You just completed your second year, back-to-back silver medals. Unfortunately, just couldn't quite get that gold. I was there with you in year 1, where we lost to an unbelievable Chinese team. and then I guess if you want to fill everyone in on what went down this year.
Yeah, so so the system is you have two pools in Division 3. We have two pools, and then you play off for the final. So I really like the fact that you can get out of your pool, then you got a semifinal game, and then you got a gold medal game. So that is great. And yeah, this year, look, we won all our pool games and everything. We just, again, came up against a big, strong team. And unfortunately, just overall team size and strength, we just didn't have that, the same team we had the year before. The year before, we had enough big, strong guys that we could, match it with these teams. China just probably had too much money and too much talent the year before. This year, it was Iceland. They were beatable, but unfortunately, again, they were just too big, too strong, and we couldn't, we just couldn't win the board battles. And if you can't win the board battles, you can't, you can't win the hockey game. And like our whole sort of style of play system was, we forechecked the heck out of them. We took the puck off on the forecheck, we cycled it, and then we got the pucks to the net. And we ground teams down. So we'd come out of the first period, 0-0 or down a goal. And, me and Chiz would be scratching our heads. But by the end of the second, we just started rolling. And by the end of the third, easy win. It just looked like an easy win. And
just wore teams down.
We could just wear them down. But unfortunately, the Iceland team, they were just a bunch of Vikings. And, the skill level was equivalent, but their size was just much greater.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess in learning from that, that may have changed what I'm about to ask, but what are some of the pillars that you build your teams around? What attributes are important to a rookie coach team?
Yeah, well, look, got to have sort of a team attitude first, 100% team attitude first. And, not selfish. Don't take those stupid penalties kind of things.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
For some reason, Siri thinks I'm talking to her.
It's all good.
Shut that down. Distracting me. All right. Yeah. So basically, so I want guys that just want to work hard for the team. And that camaraderie you're talking about supporting guys, for me, that's the team's job, is to support each other. When they're supporting each other, it just allows the coaches to give that negative feedback. You know what I mean? That players have to get sometimes. And you can be a bit of a hard ass because, the players are all supporting each other. And so that's really what I look for. And, for me, it's puck pursuit. If you lose the puck, you got to get it back. The quicker you get it back, the less teams can set up. If you can get the puck back within 6 seconds, they can't develop an offense. If they've got 6 seconds to make something happen, then all of a sudden they're attacking you. So puck pursuit's huge as well.
Yeah, right. And that's really, that's just mentality, right? Like,
yeah, 100% mentality.
Yeah, guys wanting to put the work in right away once possession's lost to get on the D side and work to get the puck back. You talked about being negative, and I know what you mean, not so much negative, but I really liked coaching with you that you kind of laid it out to the players early on that, hey, there's going to be times where I have to coach and really tell you what you don't want to hear. Nothing's personal. We're all here to get better. And something I really learned from you, because I could just feel the players almost like at ease. And it made that year in particular feedback really easy to give to guys, because they, not just because of that, obviously because of your actions throughout the tournament, but it really made guys feel that you were there to help them, even though sometimes it wasn't pretty. Like if they needed to kick up the arse, you're happy to give it to them, but in a positive way, because you're working with them and not just kind of yelling at them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for that. That is obviously what the aim is, to get that fine balance of being too much to or too much for, to get that width. That is definitely the sweet spot. So appreciate that feedback.
No worries. Look, now with, so I worked with you in year one of your job. Now you have Jason Kavissel, awesome assistant coach with a great track record. I guess often in Australia with limited resources, a coach may have to take on a bigger load with more responsibilities. I guess we're fortunate when we go away to these tournaments and we have a large staff. But I guess in a perfect world, in your eyes, what's the role of a head coach?
Well, I think a head coach really just, first off, foremost, you got to have vision. You got to know what you want from your team, what you want from the season, what you're about. And that's the second part, is the values. So you got to have a vision and you got to back it up with your values. So that's where I come from. And I'm glad that kind of came through with how I treat the players, with that firmness, but fairness, and, that with them. And, it's all about getting better. So you got to, so like I said, so vision and values. And then once you've got that, then you can define the roles as to whatever suits people. I'm not precious over, I got to run the power play. It's got to be my idea. You know what I mean? I just want to get people's ideas and then consult, sift through, and then figure out what will get that vision to happen. So who is the best person to run the forwards, the defense, the special teams, work the skills, whatever. So that's sort of how I operate.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know in Australia it's a lot of coaches that coach. They may have coached for a long time in minor hockey, and they may have had an assistant coach, sometimes often just a parent who helps open the gate and fill out the team sheet, right? And sometimes they get to the state level or working with a high-level team, and now there's a bigger staff, head coach, assistant coach, trainer, goalie coach sometimes. And it's a bit foreign to some people. So I guess to help out those coaches, what does a head coach need from an assistant coach to allow the team to be working at their best?
Well, so at the local level, the club level in Australia, I've definitely found it a little bit, I'll be honest, a little bit of a struggle, even just to get assistant coaches to just turn up every week. Yeah. It sounds funny, but like working with yourself and working with Chiz, when you're working with capable coaches who could be head coaches, and then they're for the team, so they're prepared to just do whatever they need to do. That's the ultimate. And then you can just figure out your roles as to where your strengths are. Whereas at the local level, just being committed and having somebody to bounce ideas off and just have confidence, because a lot of them, like you say, if you're an Australian dad, about cricket, about footy, you may not know nothing about hockey, but your kid decides to play, and then you want to get involved. Just learn, have confidence, bounce ideas, ask questions. So don't be afraid to bring ideas to the table, and don't be afraid to ask the coach to take on a special role, whether it's defense, offense, special teams, teaching skills, anything that you can specialize in that works, that you've got a passion for. I think it just helps take a role, video, whatever it is. It just helps relieve the pressure on the head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. Like if you're a parent coach or someone who's new to the game of hockey, but you're volunteering your time and you're helping out with minor hockey, it's really important that if you want to help the players out more, you need to educate yourself. And just like a player needs to go home and stick handle and shoot pucks, I suggest all coaches out there doing minor hockey to go home and watch video, cut clips that you may share with your team, watch video and pick out skills that you can work on with your team. It's because I know at our level, like we're still constantly learning. So for those minor hockey coaches, that's really important that they put in that work to educate himself, just like a player puts in work to get better, whether it be in the gym or off ice, skills like that. So when it comes to the bench, how do you delegate responsibilities on the bench with your assistant coach?
So again, as I said, I kind of have a vision for what the team should look like. And then I just basically assess their skill set, just as you would with players. What can this person do to help me out the best that I need? And I'll use Thunder, for example. So one year, Chris Christopoulos, I just really needed him in the stands, actually, because he gets a different perspective. He writes down notes. He can evaluate players. And it also helped a little bit with consistency because, we don't travel with assistant coaches. Most teams, well, some teams, can get a trainer or whatever. So just the way the whole thing was, we weren't traveling with assistant coaches. So it just kept it consistent, home games, away games. And and having him in that role, like I said, was really helpful. Other years, it's been good. I've had other guys who could do that, so he could come on the bench. And, like I said, just the vision and just guys be prepared to do whatever role it takes to make the team better or make it work better, really.
Yeah, I like your flexibility there. And kind of like a player, right? Like if it's not a guy's strong point, don't make him play that way. You're going to say, hey, this is your strong point, play this way. So I like your flexibility with coaches. Like, this is what you do well, help like this. I guess for anyone who hasn't been on the bench with you as a player or a coach, what's your bench management style like?
I like to call it assertive.
Okay.
So I have, like every coach, you go into the game with a game plan. And, you've coached with me. We've got roles and things. But obviously, as a head coach, you got to have that strong vision and know what you want to achieve and back yourself. So if I see something developing or a weakness in the other team and I want to change something, just coaches have to get used to it being fluid. And the players have to get used to it being fluid because, I'm more than happy to change. If I see something I think will work or, you know what I mean? You don't have time to explain all that. The player, you just have to be assertive, make the call like what you're talking about because you want that to happen. And the players just have to accept it. The assistant coaches have to accept it. And, well, you've been on the bench with me. You might feel like I stepped on your toes a little bit. But, again, it's just all it's all just in for what I think is the betterment of the team.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I like that. I know that you like to use players that you can trust. You use that word a lot when we're selecting players, particularly in the bottom half of your lineup. I like the way you use your bottom six. How important is that group of bottom six forwards on your teams?
So as I mentioned before, I'm a big believer that everybody in the team needs to have a role. And those guys are probably the most important, because you're going to get the first lines are going to be pretty equitable probably across any league or division that you're playing. But your third and fourth line, if you can get guys who can skate, who have that urgency to go get pucks back, that puck pursuit, they have that urgency to make it a point to be defensive. Then, if they're doing that and they're wanting to learn, your team's going to be more successful. So their defense first, but look, I still want them to actually have the confidence to back themselves that if they get in a situation where they can be offensive, go for it. Like I'm never going to, get mad at somebody because they jumped into the rush and now we got a 3-on-1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So as long as they're just doing, safe plays and hard work and they're not going to take penalties, that's, ultimately what you want. If you can get your, a goal, if they feel that, if I jump into a rush to make a 3-on-1 and we get caught and we get scored on, the coach isn't going to bench me for the rest of the game. You're going to find that in overtime, you're going to get goals out of your third and fourth line, and they won't be costing you. But again, you got to be prepared for, to get scored on once in a while. It's hockey. It's going to happen.
And I agree with that. Disciplined, right? Like they can't be taking not any penalties because penalties happen, but bad penalties. They can do that because that's one thing that can quickly break a coach's trust, right? Is when they take an undisciplined penalty and it's like, can I trust him not to do that again? So
Yeah,
I like
definitely.
that. I guess advice for players: how can a young player catch your eye in a short tournament? So something like Defreeze, Tange, Brown. They play 4 or 5 games over 2 or 3 days in those tournaments. Someone who's not going to be leading their team in scoring. How does a player like that catch Rucky's eye?
Yeah, so as mentioned, puck pursuit and just the urgency in the puck pursuit and the urgency for their defensive responsibilities. Really, that's if they got a bit of pace about them, a bit of energy about them, and they're working and they're turning pucks over, fantastic. And on defense, they've always in the right position. They got their man. They've always got their defense covered. Those are the 2 big things for me, for sure.
Yeah, nice and simple for players to take that in and implement that. What are some of the characteristics that you just hate to see when you're watching some of these prospects?
So, yeah, the first one you mentioned is those undisciplined penalties that they drive coaches crazy. And then the second thing is opposite to what I look for. It's just laziness. When guys are standing beside somebody or close enough that if they just took 2-3 hard strides, they would have been there, and they're not prepared to do that. Those are the 2 things that right away just they wouldn't buy into the team. They're not. You can't have those guys on your team.
Yeah, totally.
Because that's the number 1 rule, isn't it, in sport? You can stuff up, but you have to try your best. And, if you're lazy and you're taking stupid penalties, you're not doing your best for the team.
Absolutely. And I think body language is your biggest communicator, right? And I know when watching players, we can tell a lot about what they're all about with the way they carry themselves and the way that they use body language. Someone could be a bit of a hard worker, but you can just tell when the puck gets turned over by his teammate and it's not a good look. If a player can easily come across as lazy when they're kind of dogging it on the back check and not putting in the work. Body language doesn't usually lie. Talking team tactics now, what is one of the team tactics that you've found has stuck with you the most through all the teams you've coached? Like, is there something that's just always your go-to, whether it be a breakout, a forecheck, way you defend, that you found just, obviously things change as the game changes or teams change, but is there something you just think, man, I've been doing with these guys since, years ago, and it's just still there?
Well, really the most simplest thing, and it was, I think famously Gretzky's the one that identified it, it's just the give and go, making it outnumbering the defense 2-1.
Yeah.
And passing it and going to space and getting it back. That's, like I said, I think famously Gretzky identified it, in the 80s, and still to this day, if you can 2-on-1 somebody and you can just pass and go to space and get it back, you're going to generate scoring opportunities.
So do you encourage that with your guys in all 3 zones? Like, as soon as you get the puck and you give it, you're going?
100%. You got to skate. And, the toughest thing I think for defense is they either pass or they skate, when they both should be happening instantaneously. Yeah. As soon as they get the puck, the feet should be moving, but they should be looking to pass it or know where they're going to pass it before they even get there. So if they can pass it right away, they don't have to skate, but then follow the pass, follow it up.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a big thing I've found in seeing Australian kids. I think too much emphasis is on the superstar, the goal scorer. I don't think enough emphasis is on what they do away from the puck and just how important it is for that guy who scored the goal to get that excellent zone exit. And so for me, that's what I think we should be developing a bit more of.
Absolutely. And I like how you said that, like doing everything with your feet moving. That's something that players can work on at practice, because the game's just so fast now that there's really no room for doing anything while gliding, not for too long anyway. Look, I just got 3 quick hitters to finish. And the first one is the most feel-good moment from your entire coaching career.
Well, I contemplated whether or not I should discuss this in public, but to be honest with you, so, I did a little bit of coaching back in Canada. I was assistant coach on a junior B team. We won the provincial championships and stuff. So I've had some success, but to be honest with you, I just remember the first time I coached a state team. It was the Ginsburg, like Pee Wee kids team, or actually, no, it was the Adams. It was the McRae when they actually had tournament back then.
Yeah.
And New South Wales would smash us. And, I had literally 20 kids to choose a team from, and we went away with, like 11 kids. And I just remember thinking, you know what? I said to the parents and I said to the kids at the time, they were like, 10 years old. And I said, this is it. This is the people that you're going to be playing hockey with until you're 20. So we have to make this group as good as we can. And the parents committed to it and the kids committed to it. And we started practicing, we went from one practice and one game a week to like 2 or 3 practices a week. We're finding extra. Some parents that had a little bit of money were buying ice time for us, paying for the whole hour. And my goal was to get these kids. I thought, you know what, by Tange, we should be able to win the gold medal. And we ended up doing it in DeFries, actually. It was like 2 or 3 years later, we won it in DeFries. It happened faster than I thought. And so I'd say the first gold medal that we won. And the other thing was, it was like, it was the first one WA had won in like 20 years or something. It's like their youth teams had won in 20 years. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
As insignificant as it may sound in the big wide world of hockey, it was, that was actually probably about my favorite.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's important. Like, I've spoken to a lot of coaches who are coaching at a high level, and I've asked them similar questions. And it's probably more often than not, it's usually a moment that I would not have thought of. Like someone who may have coached the team to, a league championship or a provincial championship, things like that. And I remember one coach in particular, I won't name him, that we were just talking about sporting moments in general. He'd been around a few, and it was a recreational baseball team that he played with, how they won the league. And it was slow pitch, like they're having some beers and stuff, but it was just that group of guys, and he went kind of through the storyline of how it happened. And so I can totally resonate with that, because I know for myself, I think back to some of the cool hockey moments, and yeah, often, sometimes you're fortunate enough where they are at a high level, but often it's exactly what you're saying. It's a minor hockey team, it's a recreational hockey team, or whatever. And I think great moments as a coach, or even in sport, it doesn't need to be the biggest stage, because once you start playing, you can be playing drop-in or shinny hockey one day, and there just might be an unreal passage of play where you're like, that felt unreal, So I like the answer. My next one, though, is your most deflating moment from your coaching career.
Yeah, honestly, I'd have to say the loss in the final last year with the Thunder.
Really?
We just had such a good semifinal, and going into the final, just, like you said, everything was good. All the young guys were playing great. Everybody could do it. And we just had, honestly, we had like a 4-minute lapse, and it just, in the end of the first period, and that cost us the whole. We just couldn't come back with that from that. And yeah, I did, all credit to the Bears for sticking in there and, winning the game and everything. But yeah, I just felt that we should have had them last year. I really do. We should have, if we were going to win it any year, it was a great opportunity last year, because they were pretty gassed after their game.
Yeah.
And
CBR, yeah.
Yeah, and they had to battle back from that game and stuff. And yeah, they battled back and beat us too. So like I said, all credit to them. But that was disappointing when I thought we were up on them.
It would have been a tough loss, especially like the high that you guys came from winning that semi, like I mentioned, first in franchise history, and then to have the lead come out of the gates really hot, which didn't happen in the semi. Like you guys, I thought you guys came out a bit flat in the semi, but then just worked wave after wave to win the game over in the semi. Well, the final was the opposite. You guys came out really hot and got the lead. So yeah, I can see how that was deflating. But man, I really think that you squeezed everything you could out of that team last year, and you could tell by the time the siren went at the end there, the guys would have buckled over, one because they'd lost a championship, but two just because they had nothing left to give. And yeah, that would have been a tough one for sure. Last one here, I guess, is what's your dream hockey job outside of the NHL? I would imagine that everyone wants to work in the NHL because it's the best hockey league in the world. But let's pretend that doesn't exist for a second. What's your dream hockey job?
Look, it probably would be like a head coach in the CHL, like in the Western League or the Ontario Hockey League. Look, you got the 72 game season, you got the long playoffs. It's, you get that experience like an NHL season, almost. And plus, I find the junior age kids, they are awesome to work with. Look, there's a lot of attitude and difficulty, but on the same time, it's a challenge. And if you get them on your side, they're not jaded, like some of the pros can be.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that, like I say, coaching in a CHL team would be a great job.
Yeah.
Other than that, probably similar sort of age group would be like at a university.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I think you'd be a great guy for the job. That's all I had for you. Look, I really appreciate you jumping on. You're an elite coach in Australia, and you're just doing a great job with that U20 program. And like I said, back-to-back silvers. Hopefully, COVID doesn't get in the way of your 2021 tournament, where I would imagine you guys are all pretty hungry for that gold. So fingers crossed that goes your way. And thanks again for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Appreciate it. And look, what you're doing as well is fantastic. Just getting Australian coaching and hockey out there is fantastic. And yeah, I think you're doing a great thing here. And yeah, you've done a great job coaching as well. So good luck to you guys too. Hopefully you guys missed out last year. Hopefully this year you get to do the U18s.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Rocky.